Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode 40 of the Board Game Specialist. I am Melanie,
And I'm Carla.
and this week we're doing our top 9 spooky game just in time for Halloween because this episode is actually going to air on Halloween Day. Now, this is a theme I enjoy quite a bit, and I don't know why. Like, I don't like spooky movies per se. I don't like to be scared, but in board game form, I am like all over it. How about you, Carla?
Yeah, I'm the same. I used to love horror movies as a kid, teenager, but they do not interest me now anymore. That is probably one of the last ones I'd pick to watch. I would sit and watch it if it was there, but it's not. They don't really intrigue me anymore, but there are some games that do, and mine aren't. There isn't a whole lot of like real scary type games that I have played actually. So yours might have more of the real like scary ones on your list, but mine just kind of have a bit of the Halloween or spooky kind of theme to it.
Sounds good. Now, before we get into that, tell us about what you've been playing lately.
Well, I got my big Everdell Complete Collection box, and I played it for the first time yesterday, and it was glorious. we played
Glorious.
with the, we played with the one of the new expansions called New Leaf, actually, and the other one, which is Mistwood. But what New Leaf adds to the game is it adds a whole sideboard, and it adds this little train car mechanism where there's some other extra cards. So like you have 8 in the meadow, now you'll have 3 over in the station, and then you also have these visitors, and those are basically end game objectives. And so you can go and get one of those, and you will see them face up so you can tell what you're getting, and then you can go for that whatever it's requiring, or you might already have it. And then you also get this little resource that's in front of them. It's like a free stone or a berry or a coin or just a wild one. So that adds a whole bunch of new cards and objectives, and there's a couple new base events that it adds to the game, and that also adds these tickets, which lets you take an extra 2 actions in the whole game. You just flip your ticket over when you do one, and then you will get rid of the ticket when you do the second one. So an extra 2 actions is awesome because it's always pretty tight. You don't have that many workers to work with. It also gives you this little seal, this cute little rubber seal that will let you reserve a card. So if you don't have the stuff but you really want that one, you can grab it, because typically you can't take off the meadow or the station until you can build the card. So this one lets you grab it, you stick your seal on it, and then you also get a discount of 1 resource to build it. There's some really cool cards in the new expansions that allow you to expand your city more, or they'll just be in your city but won't take up a spot, because you can only typically have 15 cards in your city. So I had one that gave me 16 cards. Then I had like 3 extras that didn't take up room in my city. They have alternative cards to the farm, the wife and the husband, so that it can be for 2 husbands, 2 wives, just however you want to mix them up. It's really neat. They're considered harvesters and gatherers instead of husband and wives. And there's just the cards that they add to it just add so much to the game, and they add more thinkiness to it. But I was just in heaven yesterday. It was so awesome. We also
great.
played Dog Park for the first time.
Oh,
This one
nice.
I have coming, but I bought it I kickstarted it in a group buy, so mine won't be here for a while, but Ashley got hers.
Nice.
So it's a lighter game, like it's more like the lines of Parks.
Yeah.
I'd say the same kind of weight category, but you're just drafting these dogs off the board in an auction mechanism, and then you put them on your board, and then you decide which ones you want to walk, and you can walk up to 3, sometimes 4 if there's a special card out. And then you have to pay all the resources they want, which is either like a bone, a treat, a ball, a stick, or a squishy, like a squeaky toy.
Yeah.
And So then you pay those and then you'll walk them. And when you're walking them, you're kind of moving along this board, kind of like in parks, and collecting resources where you can go ahead as much as you want, but you can't go backwards.
Oh, cool.
And then whoever finishes their walk first gets like 3 extra points, and then the second person gets 2, third 1, and then the last person actually loses a point. So you can't just, hang back and collect everything, and because you'll end up losing a point, which I did a lot of the times just because I wanted more resources. And then each dog has an ability on it as well. So sometimes while you're walking, you're going to get extra things, or some of them have end game abilities. And so it kind of feels a little bit like Wingspan with the cards that way, with the abilities, but not the engine building like Wingspan does. But it kind of combines like Parks and a slight bit of Wingspan just because of the cards. And the card art is so awesome. All the different dog breeds that are on there. You're competing to have the majority of different categories of dogs as well, and they kind of go in a hierarchy order. Like there's one that is worth 8 points if you have the most, so everybody's going for that one, and then it kind of goes down from there. But it was really neat.
And the tray,
like, oh yeah, like the game trays are like bones, but they have, so there's 2, you can set them out in between, because it's a 4-player game. It's really neat. It's light, like it's not a real heavy game, but I do think they have an expansion coming, so it might add a little bit more to it. But just beautiful production, and the couple that produced it and designed it, they're just a lovely couple. I had talked about them. They actually had a podcast, Board Games with My Wife, I think it was called, and it was hilarious. They said they're going to come out with another one. I don't know what they'll call it, but they did a really great job. This was their very first game, and it was awesome. Then I got to play another game of Creature Comforts, which I had said we got to pull this out during the fall. It was so fun. Played Foundations of Rome, one game with Ashley, and she loved it. She wants to buy it off Cherry. So we'll see. I'm like, I don't, doesn't matter to me. I'll still get to play it if either one of them have it. So you guys just toss it around, whichever. We played A Bag of Chips. That's a funny little push your luck kind of game, which is it's a kind of a unique mechanic in it where you get a hand of cards. It is. And it's like there's some luck in it too. Like one time I had all these cards that I literally could not fulfill ever. But so you have 6 cards, and then the first round you have to get rid of 2. But first you pull out these chips out of a bag. I think you pull 6 out the first round.
5.
And they just have, or 5, and they have certain colors on them. And so you look at your cards and you're like, okay, can I fulfill any of these? And they all have goals on them. And if there's like, say, 4 green and a yellow and an orange, and one of your cards says more green than orange, you're like, okay, most likely not going to do that one. So I'll flip that one down, and then you choose another one. And then the next round you pull out, is it 3? 3 or 2?
Then you'll pull out 4. So it's 5 and then 4 chips.
Yeah. And then you get rid of 1 card. And then the third round, you pull out 2 chips.
Out 3.
3? Right. Yeah. Okay. And then you're going to take 2 of your cards and put them on a positive side saying, I'm going to fulfill those, and 1 on the negative. And then you'll pull out 2 chips, but 1 at a time, because there's some cards that say the last color of the chip that's pulled out. And then you see if you've fulfilled any of them. And if you have, you get those points. And if the negative actually fulfilled, I think you get negative points for it or something.
Yeah.
And then whoever has the most gets this one little award. And I think it's the first person to 3. So it's a really fast game. You could play it easily in like 5 to 10 minutes with maybe if you had a larger player count it would take longer, but it's really cute. Like I'm surprised just how Cherry found you one. She found a deal for you, and then she got one sent to her for free from the Dice Tower. She won. Well, then they ended up sending her a second one, so she gave it to me. I'm like, oh
sweet.
Yeah, I don't know how or why they sent her the second one, but.
It's funny because the Riveted group, which is the board game mechanics Facebook group, was just talking about that this week. The one guy posted it, says, oh my god, this game was amazing, and I'm like, really?
A bag of chips?
Like,
yeah,
no, I've seen it at Walmart so many times, and I looked at it, I was like, I don't know. Like, and it's in a plastic
Yeah,
well,
it's
plastic,
the
like in a
production
foiled
isn't good.
bag, like if it's a bag of chips.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I don't know. So I never
Mm.
picked it up. And then they're like,
Yeah.
no, this is actually pretty fun. I was like, oh, okay. So then I went to my Walmart, and well, the one in Airdrie, and of course it's all gone. And I was like, oh, darn it. And then I think it was
Yeah.
like the very next day, Cherry found it, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, grab that for me if you can.
Yay! Yeah. No, it's awesome.
But yeah, no, I was like, yeah, I got to
Yeah.
try it. And I was impressed.
Yeah. And then one more that I played was New York Slice. I had talked about this a couple
Mm,
podcasts ago, I think, and I got it out with some non-gamer but who love games friends.
yeah, yeah.
That and they actually really liked it. We played it 2 or 3 times, I think, and I was just sitting there like, yeah, this is awesome. Like it's a good gateway one because they really liked it, and just the presentation of it with the pizza
Right.
slices. And, yeah, it was fun, and it was a good. It was fun to play with four because you can really. It really changes it up, especially with those specials when when somebody wins one and they can like move around the slices before somebody takes them or something. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. But what have you been playing?
Well, this past week I acquired 18 new games. So
Just a normal day in the life
just a
of
normal
Mel.
week for Melanie, isn't it? Um, I mean, they were great deals. Most of them were like it averaged $10 a game. I think everything that I brought in, um, and then we got a bunch of like mostly the smaller ones to the table because Lily's over this weekend and she's in a gaming mood, so it's been great. She's like, I think we should play board games today, and then we'd sit down and play like 5 board games in a row. So,
That's awesome.
we played Tempura, which is so freaking cute.
Yeah, how do you
So you
play
have
that?
these cards, and it has like these little cat artwork on it with like sushi dish or tempura dish and stuff. And the goal is to eat as much as you can without getting indigestion. So, so it's ridiculous. So you'll have cards in your hand and you'll play, let's say I play a 5, which by the way, a 5 is like one of those hairless cat, which is so gross. I,
Oh, is
I
that
don't
why
know
you
why.
asked that in your chat?
I
Or
did. Well,
somebody
I
asked
kind of
that?
post. Yeah, it was because I
It's
did an
something.
unboxing video of it, right? And then this cat came up, and I'm like, okay, I gotta say, like high school
Oh,
friend of mine
yes.
got a cat recently, and it's a hairless cat. She keeps posting pictures, and every time I see it, I'm like, "Blech."
Like, do
I
you
don't know
pet it?
why.
Do you pet
Oh, I don't know. Just like, what would you pet? It was like, it'd be like, what, like you're petting rubber? Like, I don't know. It grosses me out. Just the idea of it grosses me out. And I mean, they're all wrinkles. I don't know. So,
I'm sure
yeah,
you
when I was
can learn to
unboxing
love
this,
them, but
oh, yeah, I don't have to. I mean, and I have a turtle. It's not like he's all
oh, I love your
furry,
turtle.
but I
He's
don't
so
know.
cute.
For a hairless cat, for some reason, just the look of it grosses me out. But anyways, so you would play a card. Number 5 is a hairless cat. Then the next person has to play a 5. And then you kind of going on it, playing the same card, kind of building up this dish, basically. If you cannot play a 5, you could play a pair. So let's say I had 2 3s and I could play 2 3s and then put one on top of that pile that would close that dish and start a new one. So I would discard that one. If I didn't have a pair to play on top, then I have to tally up all the points in that pile. So if we had played 4 or 5 so far, we're at 20, then I have to go into the deck and draw 20 cards. And at the start of the game, there is one indigestion card shuffled in there. So if I draw 20 cards and if there's an indigestion card, then I have to take that token and the plate kind of cancels. We shuffle the cards and then we start again. And if you ever get 4, you lose the game. Like you don't want to have your eyes bigger than your stomach. But we ended up playing 3 times in a row. Like I was like, oh, okay, that was fun. And then they're like right away shuffling and dealing again. I was like, oh, okay, again. So then it's just like, no, yeah, we're playing again. And there was one time I had to draw 28 cards. And I didn't draw any indigestion. They're like, how is that even possible? But so that one was super cool. Then we played Pina Pirata, which basically means pineapple pirate. And this is another Well, it's not cat theme, it's animal theme. The artwork is super, super cool. It plays very much like Uno meets Flux. So you have these tiles that you'll put down, like you start with two, and it kind of has a different rule. Like if you ever play um, a crocodile on top of a monkey, then you have to draw a card or different things like that. And then you have your cards, and most of the cards are double sided, so you could have like this turtle on one side and you have a penguin on the other side. But the artwork is just stunning. This is a good looking card game. And then the cards are like, they're not as wide as tarot cards, but they're as long as tarot cards. So they're nice, big cards you're playing with. And you're playing trying to be the first one to get rid of your hand. When you get rid of your hand, you get a tile. Well, you pick up 3 tiles. One that you're going to add face down to create a map, because these tiles create a map. And then when you have 4 of them, it creates like an X in the middle. So you found the treasure. And then one of them you're going to pick to add to the other tiles. That'll change some of the rules as you're playing. And then one of them goes and gets discarded. So it was neat. We've played this a couple times this weekend. It was super cool. Then we played Meowie, which is another cat-themed game. And I don't know why I have so many cat-themed games that came in this week, but there's a lot of cat games out there. We should have like our top 9 cat games sometime.
There is.
But this one's with
more
Meowie.
dog games.
Yeah, like
only
I don't know
a
why
few out
cat
there
is so
that-
overrepresented,
Yeah.
but so with this Meowie one, you have your cards that go from 1 to 12, and you have like all the same one, and then you're diving for fish, and you have these 3 levels, and you'll kind of play a card and put it face down, and then so the fish have different value. And they could go as high as like I think 12 or 15 maybe, and as low as 1. But then there's jellyfish that are actually worth -10 or -15, and then there's seagulls that are going to steal your fish. So you don't want a seagull if you can. And then so you're playing these games and then these cards, and then you kind of reveal, and whoever has the highest number dives the deepest and gets the lowest fish, which may or may not be the highest number. You never know. It depends on what got drawn. Then second highest number would get the second deepest, and then whoever has the smallest number gets the shallowest fish. And you add that to your pile, and it's a fishing festival, so you're trying to go through all these rounds. But now whatever card you've played is gone. So you can't play that one anymore. And then you flip over and it's like, oh, okay, so the seagull's at the very bottom. So you don't want to dive all the way down and get a seagull, because the seagull takes away one of your fish that's on top. So, well, I'm not going to play high, but I'm trying to aim for the second highest because the top fish is only worth 1. So, and then it has that interesting, kind of remind me a bit of Get Bit or Ship Shape, like kind of with the, where you're trying to kind of get at a certain position. But it was super cool, and it looks stunning. Like these games are just beautiful. We played Legend of the Cherry Tree, which is okay. I was unboxing this one, and then the bag is like super decorative and like in this printed leather thing, and I was like, whoa. What is this bag? And like, it's stunning, and you have all these little plastic cherry blossoms that goes in there, and it's a push your luck game. And what you need to do is you need to draw in the bag and pull out some flowers. Now you can pull out however many you want. You can only go back in the bag up to 3 times, and then you'll pull out and then put some flowers. If you ever get 3 of the same color, then you weren't successful as a cherry blossom picker. You were greedy. If you get 5 of all the different colors, same thing happens. You're not supposed to go for so much. You've been greedy. So you kind of don't have a successful picking. Or if you have more than 8 cherry blossom that's come out because you weren't careful as to what you were drawing, then again, same thing. Your picking, cherry blossom picking failed. Now, if it fails, you have to return any wild ones back into the bag, and then you put 2 of the colors you don't have in front of your board, because they're going to be worth negative points. Everything else goes back in the bag. Now, if you are successful, and there's also kind of cards that have like, well, if you're able to draw two pairs, so like two of one color and two of another color, then you activate this ability and you can go in the bag, draw one, and add it behind your board or something like that. So there'll be these different cards that if you're successful in doing what's on those cards, you get to kind of do that extra action as well. But then with your cherry blossom, you get to pick one color and take all the cherry blossom of that color, put it behind your screen, and everything else goes in front of your screen. And at the end of the game, when all the cherry blossoms have been drawn, you score the tally of all the groupings you got. So the more clusters you have in front is going to be worth more points. Now, if you only have one or two, those are worth negative points, so you're trying to avoid that. Then whatever you've clustered, like behind the screen, it's like the pink and yellows grouping are going to be worth so much if you have more than everybody else, and then the light blue and dark blue are going to be worth so much if you have more than anybody else. And it's cute, like, and just drawing in the bag and then the chunky flower blossom pieces and pulling it out. And then it's interesting with pulling like what you're trying to pull out. So I says, okay, I got two blue, but darn it, I have a black, so that's a wild, so that means I have three of them. Then I wasn't a successful picker. So it's interesting. And then we also played Walls of York. And honestly, we really enjoyed that. Like the whole 3D, like, because you have a dice tower where you drop 3 dice. And these dice aren't regular dice. Like they go from 2 to 4 or 1 to 4, but one has like a 0 on it too. And it indicates what you're trying to add in the walls of your city that you're building. So if you need like 2 churches and 3 wells and then 5 marketplace or whatever it is, so then you're trying to create this wall that's going to have like this city that's going to have all of that within its wall. Then you have another dice that you'll roll and pass around, and it'll show, okay, well, you can put 3 walls in this order, like in an L shape. So then you kind of look around your map and you put 3 walls in an L shape and stuff. But there's also icons on this map that's going to be worth they're not negative, but like I think they're, what are they, like Vikings or something, and they're raiding your city. So you try not to have them in your city or have as little as you can, because whoever has the most of it gets raided, and then they lose, like you get a raid token, which are going to be worth negative points. So, and then you play kind of building this city. It was neat. The kids, well, we played it with Patrick and Nick, and they really enjoyed it. The one thing is, mostly at a 4-player game, you run out of walls. So we pulled out like a train game and started putting trains to kind of substitute for walls. But we got this one fairly cheap, so we're going to buy a second copy and then just combine the extra walls into one game and make like a fuller game with it. But it's like, well, what do you think, guys? Is it worth kind of getting? He's like, yeah. So, okay,
it was like $9 or something, wasn't it?
It was. So like to make it an $18 game,
yeah,
but then have way more components so that you don't have the worry of running out makes a lot more sense. What else did we play? We played Woolly Wars, which is kind of a tile laying game where you're trying to put these sheeps of same color together, and you secretly have a color, so you kind of know which sheep you're trying to get, and you're trying to create as big a cluster as you can, or possibly send like a wolf in the woods next to the sheeps of the other players so that those sheeps aren't safe, so they can't score them until they find a hunter, and so on. It was cute. And then we were just waiting because Nick was selling his vehicle, so we're waiting for them to complete that before we go for supper. So me and Lily played Pizza Party, which is another game that you find at Walmart. It's just like these 10 dice with a bunch of like ingredients on it. And it's cute because the cards are slices of pizza, and then you flip it over and there's different ingredients on there, and you just speed roll your dice until you get all the ingredients you need for that pizza slice, and you're trying to get 6 slices to form a full pizza. And the first player to get a full pizza wins the game. And then I played Fleet the Dice game, which is a roll and write where you have different fishing boats and you're fishing, and you got this fishing village, and you're trying to activate the buildings, and you're trying to get boats and license to go fishing and then collect the fish, and it was neat. And that was it for me, yeah. Which honestly, like, this was mostly all in the last 2 days, so it was a fair bit of games in
yeah,
2 days. But it's been great because, yeah, Lily got home, she's like, okay, I think, let's go play some games. I'm like, okay, sounds good. Sounds
You're
good.
turning her into a gamer. I love it.
Oh, it's so much. It's great. Like a willing one. Patrick will be like, kind of like, Mom, I want to buy this. It's $20. I'm like, I was like, all right, 3 gameplays, and he's like, okay, fine. And then for those 3 gameplays, it's no fight. He'll play, but then afterwards, it's yeah. So it's kind of like, hey, don't you want something now?
Well, this is funny because I had Everdell set up on my table yesterday, and Chase walks up, my son, my 20-year-old son. He's like, hey, what's that game? That looks pretty cool. And I was like, what? What did you just say? And I tried to keep my cool. I'm like, yeah. It's a pretty cool game. It's fun. And then I texted Ashley right away, and she's like, tell him to play with us. And I'm like, no, I pull up a base game for him. I don't want to scare him away from it. But
not with all the
for
expenses.
him to have looked at it and said, it looks cool, I'm like, I have another person to play it with. So
yeah, you gotta kind of proceed with caution, approach slowly,
stay cool.
don't spook
Just
them.
Stay cool.
That's funny.
Yeah. Oh, there was another one I forgot to list. I played with my daughter. I played Naramata. So that was the wine
nice.
trail that I was talking about, the Okanagan wine
Right.
trail, and she really liked it. Yeah, it was fun.
That's great. All right, well, we'll get started with our top 9 spooky games. I am excited about this list. Now, before we get started in our 9, do you have any honorable mentions?
I have one little one, and only because we've only played it once, and I'm terrible at it, but I still like it. It's called Ghost Blitz. It's this little goofy dice game. You can get, there's about 3 or 4 different versions of this game. You can get it in with cards, but I got the dice version. So it comes with these big, huge, chunky dice.
Nice.
And I think there's 5 dice, and these goofy objects. So there's like a ghost, there's a chair, a book, I think a bucket maybe, and something else. And so you roll the dice, and whatever is on the dice that is like the most of, like say there's 4 books, you have to grab the book right away. Sounds easy, but it throws you off because you're looking at the colors on there and you're like, that's not the color of the book. And then like my brain is not quick enough to function this way. Cherry and Nashi just destroyed me. And then if there's all of the same, if there's one of each on the dice, like of the object, then you have to find where the ghost is hiding. So it's whatever color the ghost is showing. You don't grab the ghost. So if the ghost is red on that roll, you have to grab the red object. So it just really like screws with your mind. And then if there's 2 pairs of something, say 2 books, 2 buckets, it's the other thing you have to grab. So, and then there's one other thing I can't remember, but it's like really trippy. Like, I want to play this with kids. Actually, Ashley bought a copy and played with her son, and he loves it, I guess, which I think they'd be really quick at because they. Like I used to play like those kind of spot it games where you have this big board and you have to find something, and my kids would just kill me at that because their eyes are so sharp. But it was fun because you're just like, ugh, and you're trying to grab this
and you're reaching for the wrong thing this whole time anyways.
Well, exactly. And so if you're the first one to grab the right thing, you get this little scoring disc. But if you happen to grab the wrong thing, then the person who grabbed the right thing, you have to give them one of your scoring discs. So on the slight chance
I kind of
that
want this.
On the slight chance that I did get something, I usually had to give it up the next round because I would be like, oh, it's not that. But there's funny. Like all kinds. There's card versions where you just flip a card or you flip a bunch of cards and then whatever's not there is what you grab, kind of thing. But the dice, I think, add kind of a neat because you're like rolling them, so it's just like and you look at but there's all different kinds of versions. And you know where I got the idea from this was one of your favorite podcasts, that I think it was Escape into Board Games. I think they had talked about it, and I was like, I think I'm gonna check this one out. But
nice.
they had it at Wizard's Loft, so I'm like, oh, I'm gonna try
because they just did their spooky ones too. Yeah, great.
I'm going to get better at this game for next
Halloween. You can do it. I believe in you.
I'll train. Play solo for a while.
Nice.
Doesn't make sense. What about you? Do you have any honorable mentions?
I do. I have one. And it's because I've never played it, so I can't put it on my list. but I've watched lots of tutorial about it and I've bought it a little while ago and I'm probably playing it on Halloween weekend. And
Yeah.
it's called Nyctophobia,
Oh
which
yeah, you said
means the
that.
fear of the dark. And what's happening with this is you have this board and you have all these components that you can kind of set up and you create this map. And then there's a little car that has players on it and the play like but everybody's playing. So one person will kind of run the game and runs the bad guy because it's everybody against one basically. And everybody else playing have their character, but they're wearing these blackout glasses you cannot see. So it plays blind. And when it's kind of your turn, you'll kind of be like, put your hand out, and then the person that runs the game will be like, hey, you're right here. And you can feel like the token is like, okay, well, it has like a plus sign. That's my symbol. That's me. It's like, okay, to the north of you, and you move kind of to the north, you have this, and you feel is like, okay, well, you get these pokey things, which means like it's the forest. Those are the pokey trees at the top. And then it's like to the east of you, and you kind of feel is like, oh, that's the triangle shaped person, so and so's next to me. And then to the south of you is that, okay, there's nothing there, so I could go south. And to the west is that, okay, I could go south or I could go west. So, and then be like, okay, I'll go west. And then you kind of, the token kind of is like, okay, and you get a second move, and then you kind of feel around again. And what's happening is like, Dracula's after you. I think there's a different scenario, but like, so Dracula's after you, but you lost a friend in the forest and you're trying to find that friend and then make it back to the car and then get out without anybody dying by Dracula, right? Like, so that's what you're trying to do. And then you have like a rock. So if all of a sudden Dracula is close, you can throw your rock at it and then it'll kind of make him scoot away a little bit. But then there's like something that happens that could be like, okay, you accidentally came upon Dracula, so you freaked out, so you ran away, and you ran away 3 spaces. But now you're like, damn it, where am I now? It's like, okay, your feelings like, okay, well, I don't know, I went away 3 spaces. I don't know in what direction. I'm not sure where I'm at anymore. Because all this, you don't see the map. You have to try to remember where you're at, and by feel, and it sounds so cool. Tom Vassell was talking about this one. He was saying, like, when you watch that spooky movie and you get that feeling, like, oh my God, it's going to jump out at you. It's going to jump out at you. And he's like, I hate that feeling, and this game gives me that feeling. Like, it sounds like it would be such an interesting thing to go through. The person who created this game created it because I think it was an uncle was blind, and they wanted to create a game that he would be on even footing with everybody else playing. So it looks so cool. I had bought it for my friend for her birthday like a year ago, and then I was like, I kind of want it too. So then I found it again and bought it for myself, and then I'm just really excited to get this one played.
Awesome. I
Mm-hmm.
actually have one more honorable mention. I just have to look at the name of it. I just remembered. Oh my God, this was hilarious. We played. What is it called here? Nightmare Horror Adventures. Welcome to the
Oh.
Crafton Mansion. Now it's like an escape room. So,
Oh, cool.
and Cherry got it for $5 at like EB Games or whatever it's called, the game shop now. And so we're like, okay, let's give this a try. It's like horror themed, right? So you have all these cards out, which is the mansion, and then but they're all flipped down, so you have to kind of walk through the mansion, and you need a device because it like describes everything on there. So you push play and you start, and you each have a character or 2 characters, and
Yeah.
you're this family, this kind of like rich family that you're the kids of all these like parents. So there's like a brother and sister that have a set of parents, and then another brother and sister that have a set of
Oh,
parents, kind of
okay.
thing. And so one of those parents, I think, got killed. Now I'm kind of forgetting, and
Yeah.
I don't know if some of them are alive or if they're dead or whatever. But so you're going and you have to try to figure out personality traits because you kind of will kind of know the killer's personality traits. So you're trying to match like who killed him out of all these sets of parents, right? And it's kind of like as we go, I'm like, oh, this actually isn't that bad. I'm not huge into escape room games. Like I like some of the unlocks, but I haven't found any like board game ones that I really like. So we're going along, and then so it'll like tell you, okay, you can look at this card, or you can search in here, or you can search in a corner, and you kind of get clues. But then so after a while, it got weird.
Oh no!
It was like, what the heck? And then all of a sudden, it would be like, okay, because you have these masks. Everybody put their mask on, and you'd close your eyes, but you'd put your mask on, and then it would give you an animal sound. And if on your character you had that animal sound, you would pull your mask off, and you'd look at the screen and do what it said. And sometimes it would say like, go grab a knife and put it in the middle of the table, or go and like touch the other people on the shoulder, like just tap them sort of. And so even though we're just sitting there with the lights on, you got your eyes covered, and you're like, after you know you've like some people have been tapped, you're like, oh my god, are they gonna come and touch me? Like you just freaking out. And then it got super weird after. There was like a mask came out, and when one of us,
that sounds so neat,
had the mask on, my husband came home from work, and he comes in and he's like, what the hell are you guys doing?
The things you walk in on. Yeah.
And I can't say that it was like good, but it was like interesting, that's for sure. And I don't think they even designed, because we kind of looked after if they designed any other ones, but it was a very unique experience. It's so weird.
That sounds funny.
Because we'd be sitting there, don't touch me, don't touch me. And then you'd have to go and like pinch somebody's neck, or it was just so weird. But strange experience. But anyway.
Yeah.
So any more honorable mentions for you?
No, that was it for me.
All right. Well, let's get into it. My number 9 is called Medium. Now, this is a game that I've played with family, and then I've played with some gamers as well. And it actually didn't go over that well with the gamers, but it did go better with my family. I mean, I actually have to try it with my non-gamer friends that like games and see how they like it. But have you played this one ever?
I have, yes.
Yeah. So what you do is you have all these decks of cards in the box, and you pull out 2 decks, I guess depending on player count, and you'll mix them all up. And you'll deal out these cards to everyone, and I think you have 6 cards or something. And they just have a word on them. And like it could have rainbow or truck or anything on it. And so you're just going to choose a card to play. And so you're always going to play with a partner next to you. So first I might play with a person who's to the left of me. So we will each choose a card, and then we place those cards face up and say the words are truck and rainbow. So then we have like a few seconds to think of a word that connects those two. So I can't think of one right now.
Oh, yeah, truck and rainbow. I'm like, ice cream truck? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that would be a good one. So you could say ice cream kind of thing. So say one of us said ice cream and the other one said leprechaun. I don't know. But anyway, those would be our next 2 words. And then if we got from ice cream to leprechaun, who knows, the next one could be cereal. You know, what's that called? Those
Lucky Charms?
Lucky Charms. Anyway, but if you ever get to the word together, then you get to grab a point chip off the table. And you only have 3 chances to do it. So if you do it the first time, you'll get like they're all face down, so you don't know. But you'll get to choose from the first pile, which are high chip points. And then if you get it in the second round, you'll go to the middle one, which are a little bit lower. And then the third round, you'll grab from the third pile. And then those chips stay in between like you two, and then the next person will go, the person on your left will play with the person on their left, and you just kind of go around. I think you do 3 rounds, and whoever has the most chips, like, so I would look at my chips on my left and my right, and I'd add them up, and it just it's just a really cool game. It didn't, me and Sherry and Ashley didn't do very well at it. I think
nice.
Maybe a few times got it on the 3rd try, if that, but with me and my family,
missed.
Did you?
We missed more often than we were successful. Like, I played it with Michael and his friend Mike, and then my friend Allison. And it's funny because me and Allison would put the 2 cards, and that'd be like, hey, say your words. And we'd say the word, and we would match. But the person across from me, who I'm never going to play with, is like, that's what I was going to say.
Oh,
and like, why are you over
there? Yeah. Move seats. Yeah, and you sometimes really, like, can synchronize with someone. Like, I know me and my son, we would just like get it on the first try, and I'm like, what the heck?
You
You're
just
in my
think the
head.
same. Yeah.
So it really went off well. And then sometimes him and my daughter, like brother and sister, were just in sync. And I'm like, so the three of us played it. We had a really good time with that. But I'm gonna have to
Nice.
try it with a bigger group, but I liked it. And that's my number 9, medium.
Wonderful. My number 9 is Mysterium. It was published in 2015, created by Alexander Newski and Oleg Sidorenko, and it's published by Libellude. And this is, if you've played Dixit, this plays with the Dixit cards. But it's super cool because you've got like just the ambiance that this creates because you got this big shield for the person that's kind of playing as the ghost. And so, and you look like down there and then you have like, it kind of creates this big spooky mansion and you have like all these cards leading up to it. And basically what's happened is there's been murders and this ghost is trying to give this information to these paranormal detective to figure out how they were murdered, but they can't communicate clearly. They can give you visions in your dreams that are very vague. And then it'll be like, so you'll kind of on the first round, it'll be like, hey, well, I'm giving you this card to you and this card to you and this card to you because everybody has different information. And then could be like, okay, well, and then the first one is you're trying to figure out who the murderer was. And everybody has their own murderer. And then each player has this plastic crystal ball, like I don't know, piece that you move forward to where you think. So, okay, well, she gave me this one. There's a lot of red in this card, so I think it's referring to this guy that's dressed in red. So I'm going to put my crystal ball on this guy dressed in red because that's who I think it is. And maybe they're correct. Well, and then afterwards, kind of like you either move them up a level or you move them back to the starting place if they're wrong. So the ghost afterwards, everybody made their choice, will kind of move you forward or backwards. And the ghost doesn't talk, right? So it's kind of because he can't communicate that way. But then like, okay, when maybe it goes backwards. Maybe I give him a red, like this card, not because it was red, but because there's food on it and there's a chef. Or, like, so there's different things you're trying to push in. So if you weren't successful, then you'd give them another card. Say, I'm giving you this card now. And now you still have the red card and you have the new card. Now you're trying to find another link to these. So first you're going to try to figure out who the murderer is. Then you're going to try to figure out where it took place. And then you're trying to figure out what weapon was used. And then like you kind of make your way. It's interesting. And it's funny, in my family, both with this one and Dixit, I have some family members that love it. And then they played it and they're like, oh, that was so cool. And I have some that hates it. And I think it's like the abstract thinking, kind of like, well, it's in clear. It's so abstract trying to figure out, well, why would I think this? It's like, well, look, because there's some round shapes here and then there's round there. And I was like, really? Really? So, and that aspect of it just kind of bugs them. Now, I just purchased Obscurio as part of the 18 games I've purchased, which from what I understand plays similar to it, but you have these tokens that you can kind of pinpoint at what aspect of the image. This is what I'm referring to, the round parts, or, maybe the food over here. So you can be more specific as to what part of the picture that you're referring to, but I haven't played Obscurio yet, so. But yeah, so that's my number 9, Mysterium.
Awesome. That's a good one. And Obscurio, is that one of the ones we got you from, or Cherry got you from Bianca?
No, I bought that one
okay.
from Boardgame Bliss, yeah.
I don't think I've seen that one there. Okay. Awesome. That one looks interesting too. Okay, my number 8 is Deception Murder in Hong Kong. And this is made in 2014 by Toby Ho. Now, you introduced me to this game. I really liked it. It was cool. You're trying to figure out who the murderer is and possibly the suspect or the accomplice. It is, I think it's called. And I think it plays at a better at a higher player count because I think you need at least 4 people or something.
Yeah.
I can't remember, and you're just trying to. You have these cards out in front of you, which are like items. Not locations. Is there locations in front of you?
So there's 5 weapons and 5 items that were left behind at the scene of the crime.
Items, right.
Yeah.
And so you are just trying to figure out Now I can't even remember how you ask the questions.
Well, because
It's been
one
a
of the
while since you
person's going
played
to
it.
play as the forensic detective. They don't talk,
Right.
but they have these cards that they can put a bullet on that will refer to different things. So death by, and it'd be like blunt force trauma.
Oh, right. And then
Okay,
you look at
so like,
people's
and you get
items
these,
and you're like, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Maybe it was you over there with a rock or something. I don't know.
yeah,
But it was a neat experience, and you had a friend Michael come with his daughter, and it was
yeah.
funny because I think she was the killer at one time, and
He was the
but I was
accomplice.
thinking it was him because
Yeah.
he was like very suspicious. And
Everybody's
then
suspicious in
yeah.
these games. I trust nobody.
Yeah. It was quite interesting, and I had wanted to try this game for so long, and I had seen it on the used market, and I'm like, oh, I never have four or more players, like, so rarely. So I'm glad I got to try it at your place. But yeah, that's my number 8, Deception Murder in Hong Kong.
That is a good one. My number 8 is Flick 'em Up, Dead of Winter. It's published in 2017. It is created by Gaetan Bojano, Jonathan Gilmore, Jean-Yves Montpertin, and Isaac Vega. And this one is cool because you set up the tape, like you set up, like, and it has multiple scenarios that you can set up. Some scenarios are going to be competitive, some scenarios are going to be cooperative, and you have like a different goal on each one. And then you have all these like buildings that are on standees that'll stand up, and then you look at the scenarios like, okay, well, we have the school over here, there's that over, so you recreate this whole map. This is one where you play at the table, but you pull the chairs away. You're not going to need chairs. And then you have your little characters. You have these little wooden characters that you would put somewhere in the map, and it's a flicking game. So when you're moving, you'll put kind of like a disc to show where you're at, and then you kind of flick the disc to where it's gonna shoot to, and then that's where you're going. But you also have zombies in this city, so you have like the zombie wooden meeple there. So when you're moving, you're trying not to run into a zombie, or they'll hit you. And then you have weapons, so you have like a pistol. So with a pistol, you have this little cardboard thing that has like the one notch in it where you're going to put this one wooden thing and you flick it out of it. But because it's in this cardboard holder thing, it's going to shoot straight. So you aim it, so it comes shooting and then flicking, and then hope that it goes far enough so that it'll shoot the zombie you're aiming for. Then you can get a shotgun, and the shotgun has a wider hole, and then you put 4 bullets into it, and you flick at the bottom so it pushes all of these 4 bullets out, but then those tend to spray a little bit more, and you're trying to like, okay, well, there's a few zombies, hopefully I hit something. And sometimes you do it, and then it kind of misses each and every one of them. It's like, oh, really? But then you have the baseball bat as well, and then this is like a little wooden baseball bat, and you have to flick, but that's gonna swing around, like it's not gonna go as easy as the bullet, so you kind of flick it and then trying to hit these zombies. And then the one we had done, we were trying to kind of get rid of some of the zombies, so we would had the zombie number down and then make it to the bus so we could get away, or we had to go in one building to find fuel as well, or something like that. And sometimes that's the thing, okay, well, you need to go into the school, grab this and go. So then you have to get your character to the school, and then you have to go through the doorway hole in the school to go get what you need in there. And then new zombies are going to come out, and they have this tower thing that you put the tower down, and on the top there's a lid, and there's like positions like, okay, well, one zombie goes there, one zombie goes there, and then you push this thing that makes the lid drop down, and then the zombie falls into the tower depending on where they land, if they hit you or if they're like, kind of, that's where they go, and then that's where they are now. And it's just a neat, interesting game. Like, it was, because it's all 3D, and then you're flicking around trying to get this. And I mean, some people might have great dexterity with this thing. I'd be like, okay, I'm going there, and then I flick, and then I move like an inch. It's like, what the heck? So it's neat. It was a neat one, and we're actually planning on playing it next weekend, so it'll be good. So that's my number 8, Flick 'em Up, Dead of Winter.
Yeah, my flicking skills, are very low.
Yeah.
Not the greatest flicker. All right. My number 7 is Crave, made in 2019 by Brian Sloan. And this is a deck builder, a 2-player deck builder. I think you can play it with 4 if you have another game, like another whole deck. And you're playing as vampires or vampire hunters. Did you get a chance to play this yet?
Not yet. I
Not
want
yet?
to. Hopefully
You
today.
should try it. Yeah, you should try it with someone. It's awesome. It's the reason I had bought it was because you always talk about Star Realms, and
Yeah.
then I had seen Jamie Stegmaier talk about this game Crave, and he's like, it's very comparable to Star Realms, but then he talked about the theme of it, and I'm like, oh, I think I like this theme. I'm gonna try this one, because the vampires are like these hippie, like new age vampires, and the hunters can be anywhere from like werewolves to all different things, and they can go either way, some of these different characters. So you start with this hand of cards, and you can play certain cards out, and then you need to use life sometimes, like to do something or to attack or whatnot, or you can gain life back, and then you can also buy from this market in front of you, and you can both buy, but you also have your own market as well that you'll lay cards out that you can purchase from. Only the other player can't. And so then sometimes you'll set up some of these guards, and I'm probably not saying the correct name of them, but so they'll be set up for the next player. So when they go, if they want to attack you, they kind of have to get through these guards first, and then, but only if they're like actually up, because once you build them, they kind of go sideways, and they're not actually, like, not alive, but they're not active until the next round kind of thing. So you have a chance to build them and just use them before somebody can attack them. But it's really neat. I found it trickier to be the vampire because it's harder to get life back, because in order to get life as a vampire, you have to drink blood. So I can't remember the name of it, what they call, but there's certain cards that'll let you do that, and then that brings your life back up. So it's really neat. It's you have to try this one.
It does
the
sound
cards,
so cool.
Yeah, the art is so cool on them too. And it's just a 2-player deck builder called Crave. That's my number 7.
Nice. My number 7 is Fallout, and that was created in 2017 by Andrew Fisher and Nathan Hajek, and it's created by Fantasy Flight Game. And this one's, I guess Fallout's a video game, so it's based on the video game. It's post-apocalyptic, so there's been a big war. The world is mostly destroyed, and you have these tiles that you put out, and this one is another one that will have kind of different scenarios you can do. So you put out all these tiles, and then they're all face down except for like the 4 to begin with, and you're going around, and it's neat. So you'll go around and be like, okay, I'm going there, and you flick it up, and then flip up the tile, and it'll kind of show what's on there. It could be that there's a monster, and there's different monsters. There's like insect-like monsters, or there's robot-type monsters, or there's these different things, and some of them are more aggressive than others. So then if you flick them up, then and they see you now, they're attacking. Some won't necessarily attack yet. And then you'll be kind of, at the end of each round, you kind of roll these, is it roll the dice or flip some cards, and then whatever monster comes up, well, they start moving towards the players. So like, okay, and they're slowly kind of creeping towards you. And then if you're ever an attack, and then like the monster is like, hey, well, the weak spot for him is the head and the torso. So then you have these dice that you roll, and the dice shows like body parts, like arms and legs and head and torso or whatever, and it's like rolls like, darn, that's all legs. Kind of roll again. It's like, okay, great, I hit him in the torso and in the head. So it was like, so you're trying to roll so you can hit them, but they have a certain hit point that you got to reach as well. And then you're collecting these tokens as you play, and then the more tokens you have, the more rerolls you would be allowed to do. But then as you're rolling, some of these dice will have like asterisks, and then that's how many hits take back as well. So this monster's fighting back, right? Like, so you have this whole like monsters creeping around the map coming after you thing. And then like at the end of each round as well, like you would kind of like, okay, great, well, insect monsters have spawned. So if it moved away from the location it was at and there's an empty tile with an insect token like symbol on it, well then a new monster goes there now. So it spawned some new one. So then you get more and more monsters. But then you're going around and you can go into cities and you like, but it's very story driven as well. You'll have these cars. I'll be like, okay, so you come across like this village and then these people are like prosecuting this little girl because they're saying she's a synthetic, which is like she's a robot that looks like a person. And then it's like, hey, well, do you want to protect her or do you want to leave her there? And then it's like, well, yeah, let's protect her. So like, hey, well, if you protect her, then add this card and this card into the pile, and then you shuffle those. And then when you come across those cards, eventually be like, well, it turns out she was in fact a synthetic, but she's a good one. She's not me. And it's like, do you trust her or do you kind of destroy her? Like, and then like the story develops as you play and more cards comes in and these different things happen. And then you also have like where you pick like your you, like who you're gonna put your loyalty with. It's like, okay, well, I don't know, like, so it's like you're more on this side. Well, then like, so now you're on like politic wise, kind of more part of this group. It's like, oh, but now you swap sides, so now you're part of this group, and then depending on what you do and what you decide, which group kind of gets more influence as well. Like it is neat, it's fun, and going around just the story aspect of it. And then this is one that we've played quite a few times and it was just like, okay, that was cool. Like, so I haven't played all the scenarios at all. In fact, I'm because every time we kind of play the first one again because somebody new is playing, so it's like, okay, well, let's do this one. But it's one that you can do it again and again, and the map's different anyways, and then you might have an idea of what's going to happen in the story, but you may play it differently, so it's you can replay them. But that's my number 7, Fallout.
Cool. I've always peeked at this one. It's intrigued me a bit too. My number 6 is Run Fight or Die Reloaded, and this is made in 2019 by Richard Lunius and Jason Maxwell. Now this one is kind of a remake of just Run Fight or Die. I never have played the original, but I did have the original in my cart years and years ago, and then I never ended up buying it. And then they came out with this new one, and I think I had that one in my cart. And then my friend actually ended up buying it, so I'm like, sweet, I can try yours. So what you have in this game is you each have boards, and you have all these different zombies that are on your board. And you have like a zone 1, 2, and 3. And so you start with these little, so they're just little plastic standees. You start with them on your board, and then you each have this handful of dice. And you, on your turn, you'll roll your dice, and it's kind of like a Yahtzee mechanism. I think you can roll up to 3 times. I can't totally remember, but and what you're trying to do is like each card, like your board, will have something different than the other players. So you might want to have some guns and a bag and so much that would give you an ability that you'd be able to like kill off zombies in your zone 3, which is right close to you, because you don't want them to come off onto you or you'll lose life. Now what also you can do is you can upgrade things. You can, like, if you roll, I can't remember what it is that you need to roll, but you can like get friends or helpers, and they will like give you abilities, or you can buy more tools that will help you get rid of these zombies. And so you choose what your dice you want to keep, and then after your rolls you'll do what you can to like get rid of some of these zombies that are on your board. And then at the end they always advance, and I can't remember how many advance, but some will advance to like 1, and then the ones will go to 2, and the 2s will come to 3. And then once they've come off your board, like, you want to make sure you have no 3s at the end of your turn, because they're coming to you, and then you lose some of your life. And each helper will have life as well, so the more people you have, the more life you can take away, because you can kill some of them off instead of yourself. But the neat thing too is some of your abilities you can move from your level, your phase 1, onto somebody else's board. So you can push some of the zombies onto other people. And it's a push your luck game, but it's just so fun and unique, because it's all about the dice again and what you're trying to get. And you want to try to get these really good combos that are only on your board. And then there's also a thing when once something comes out, there's like this big boss kind of person who you're all trying to fight, and you'll get points for actually fighting or destroying that person or thing, whatever it is. And then at the end, if you've survived, it's like whoever has the most points, where like on your helpers, with your little point chips and like tools and whatnot. It's just a really neat game, and I think it plays like up to 6. We've played it one time. I think maybe even more than 6. It might go up to 8. I'm not sure, but it was a neat little push your luck zombie game, and that's my number 6. Run, Fight or Die Reloaded.
That sounds so cool. I've never heard of this at all.
Really?
Yeah. I have to look that up.
Cherry has it, so we'll have to play it sometime.
Nice. My number 6 is Arkham Horror, the card game. This was published in 2016. It's created by Nate French and MJ Newman, and it's a Fantasy Flight Games. And it's funny, the first time I played this, it was me and my friend Aaliyah, and poor Aaliyah. She's a very religious person, so I don't think this was the theme for her.
Lovecraft.
And then we were first time playing it. Excuse me. And we were both fairly new to the hobby at that time, and it was just a beast to learn. But Fantasy Flight Game has created a tutorial video on this that you can find on YouTube, and I gotta say, like, this video is amazing. It's almost like you're watching a movie, and it has the spooky like this music, and then it comes up, it's like, this is happening into the town of Arkham, and they gotta stop these cultists. And it's like, okay, and like it kind of builds you up, and it's like, set these cards up like this, and then it kind of shows you how to set. Like the tutorial video is really good, and Fantasy Flight Game will do that with some of their games, and it's just spectacular. So, and it's really neat because you have each a character, and you have your kind of starting deck, and there'll be spells that you can cast, and you'll have weapons that you can have, and then you have like the original location, which is a card, and then you kind of flip it over, and then there's text on it, right? So okay, so somebody called you and you got there, and then you're in this study, but all of a sudden the door closes, and then the seams of like around the door kind of disappear, so there's no door there anymore at all, and you got to try to find a way out when there's no more exit here. So, and then you have to kind of do these skill tests and then beat these monsters or stuff that kind of show up, and you got go through this, and then from there, once you open up, you can go in the attic or in the hallway, and then there's symbol on the card that has matching symbol on the other location. So if the study has a symbol that matches what in the hallway, then that means these ones are connected, and from here you can go there. Now, there might be another card that doesn't have matching symbols just because you can't reach it yet. You got to move to the hallway, but that hallway has it, so then now all of a sudden you have access to this. So it creates this map, but it's very abstract with the cards. And then, so it'll be like, okay, great, but all these other locations are still face down until you reach there, and then you kind of flip it over. It's like, okay, now you got to flip these cards into like the story that kind of develops the story as well. So it's very story driven, and you kind of read this out, and oh no, this is happening, and then it's like, okay, when you're hearing scratching in the attic, it's like, okay, well, should one of us go check out the attic? And then you go there, and then, oh great, there's all these monsters that you're gonna have to try to battle, but then you could take health damage, but you can also take sanity damage as well, and if you ever go insane, it's just as bad as if you die. Like, it's like, so, which is like the Arkham and Cthulhu theme, like you got to protect your sanity as much as your health. And it was neat. It was really neat. And I mean, it's a fairly small game just because it's all card based, but that's my number 6, Arkham Horror, the card game.
Awesome. That one sounds interesting too. My number 5 is Broom Service, and this is made in 2015 by Alexander Pfister and Andreas Pelikan. Now this one looks like a child's game when you look at the box. It really does. And the board. You're like, what is going on here? Looks like a roll and move that you're rolling a move like around and just collecting potions, but it's actually really cool. So it's a pick up and deliver, but how you do that is you have this hand of cards and you choose, I can't remember how many, I think it's depending on player count. I think it does play better at a higher player count. I have played it at like 6. And so you choose a card, you choose some cards in your hand, and then you put the rest down, and then the round begins. And the first player will take one of the cards and play it, and they can play. So it's like witches and different things. So you'll play one down, and you decide if you're gonna play as a brave witch or a, do they call
Coward?
it a cowardly witch? I think it's
Yeah.
called. So if you're cowardly, you get to take a lesser action, but you get to take it no matter what. But if you decide to be a brave witch, you're hoping that nobody else around the table is a brave witch of this kind. Because if they are, you get no action. But if you are the only brave witch, you get like, it's almost like a double action from what the cowardly one does. And it lets you either move your witch and like pick up or deliver something, or like you can never, wherever you are, you can't do something in the area. You always have to end up moving. So there's different things, because you can pick up these rain clouds that'll give you these wands, which are like a set collection thing. You can move your witch to a different area and deliver at these colored towers, and when you deliver, you'll get points. You can just gather. There's gathers too, not just witches, but and a weather fairy and all kinds of things. And it doesn't sound like much at all, but it's really fun to play, because you're like, okay, what am I gonna play? I don't think anybody's gonna play this, because I don't think they want to move in this kind of way. So I'm gonna be brave. Or if you're the last player, you can be brave, and no one else can. That's it. You've got it. But if you are the last person who's brave, you end up being the first player, which is not fun to be the first player, because then you're like, well, I basically have to be cowardly or just really gamble, and if I gamble, I get to do nothing. So it's really cool, and there's different levels of playing. You can play on one side, which is kind of like an easier version. Then you could flip it over, and it's like a more difficult board, and you can add like all these rain clouds in, and just all different things that add a little bit of complexity to it. But I always pull it out at Halloween and make Cherry play it. But this year, I'm hoping we'll have a bigger group and we can play it with more people, because it's such a fun, bigger player group game. And that's my number 5, Broom Service.
Yeah, Broom Service is great. And actually, I just purchased Broom Service, the card game.
Yeah, I have that too. I like it.
And I think it's like kind of does just the push your luck with the card, like I'm gonna be brave or cowardly, but I don't know how the rest of the game plays.
It's like it's that with set collection, so you're just trying to kind of set collected.
Okay, cool.
It's neat though. I like that too.
Oh,
that one's fun
yeah,
too.
That might be kind of sometimes easier to get to the table.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Perfect. So that was your number 5. Was it your number 5?
Yep.
Perfect. My number 5 is called Terror Below, and it's created in 2019 by Mike Elliott, and it's a Renegade Game Studios. And this one was cool. Like, first of all, this game looks cool. You have this odd shaped map board that's kind of like in a ragged circular shape, and it's the desert, and you have like these kind of buildings scattered here and there, and there's these worm monsters that are traveling underground, and it will poke through, and you're going around and you're trying to go around and create as little vibration as possible, because otherwise it'll find where you're at. And then it's like, okay, well, the vibrations are here, it's about to come. It's like, oh shoot. So you try to get out of the way, but when they come out and they pop out, it'll cause debris to go out, and if you get debris landed on you, you're going to take some damage. But then it'll also kind of deposit these eggs, and you're trying to collect the eggs and take them back to some of these buildings, and that's kind of the whole point. And then depending on the egg that you get, and then where you kind of return them, you're going to get victory points for that, and you're trying to get to 20 victory points to win the game. And you're collecting these so that you can kind of study, like in the storyline, like you're trying to collect these so that you can study, so you can kind of destroy this monster. But it looks cool. Like, and then you can kind of go around by jeep, so you can go further, but it's going to create the more vibrations. And then it, like, the whole thing, and I've only played this the one time. I don't own this game. It was my friend Travis that owned it, and it was just such a neat game, like in the way it looks and the theme of it, because it's based on the movie. What is the movie called?
I don't know.
With the underground monsters. Oh, it's like, geez, that's gonna bug me now. But it was super cool. And if this is one that I come across, I'm totally picking it up. But I've never come across it yet. So that's my number 5, Terror Below.
Does this one have an orange board?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen this at a con somewhere played, and yeah, it kind of looked interesting. All right, my number 4 is Dead of Winter, made in 2014 by Jonathan Gilmour and Isaac Vega. This one is basically, what's that zombie show called now? Oh, I'm blanking. It's, can't think of the name. You know, it's probably the most famous series zombie one where they're
Zombicide?
No, the movie or the TV series. What am I thinking? Why am I blanking?
Like Walking Dead?
Yes, The Walking Dead.
Okay.
It's basically Walking Dead, the board game. But they do also have a game called Walking Dead, the board game, but I think this one is better. So what you're doing is you all start in this colony. It's a semi-co-op game because you all have to work together to like fight these zombies, but in the end you have a personal objective that you need to fulfill, and there's a chance that there could be a traitor in the game. I have played with both, without the traitor and with the traitor, and they're both good because even without the traitor, you're still suspicious that maybe somebody else is a traitor, because what you're doing is you are in this colony and you have you all start with 2 or 3 people. I can't remember the amount because I think it depends on player count. I haven't played it in so long, but you are going to go and leave the colony and search for like food and medicine and tools and all kinds of things. And you have these locations that you can go to. But to go to them, you have to either use gas, cards, gas cards, or you have to roll this die. And this die is a deadly one because it could have nothing on it, which you get away free, or it could have a bite. And if you get bit, you could be injured, but you could also just die, and that would mean one of your characters would die off, which is fine. You can get more characters, but it's neat because you also, at each round, you have to collect this certain like amount of things. There's always an objective that is flipped and say you need to have like 2 food per person in the game. Has to be in this pile, because if you don't, then you start to lose morale, and if you morale ever goes to 0, you're all dead. So, but the thing is, you will say, like at the end of your turn, you might go search somewhere and then like gather some cards, which you don't show people. And then you'll say, oh, okay, I'm going to add 2 food to this pile, and you'll flip them face down. So great, that means we only need 2 more food. But if you were the trader, you might have put down just some junk and said, oh, I put 2 food in there. And nobody will know, because at the end of the round, you take those cards and you shuffle them up face down. So you don't know like which order the cards were in. And you'll flip them over and you'll be like, hey, there's only 2 food in here and 2 junk. Who somebody put junk in here. And so then you know, okay, there's possibly a traitor.
Yeah.
The other reason you may have done that is when you searched, you got like 2 medical supplies, which you needed for your objectives. You're like, oh, I'm just going to lose morale this round because I've got the things I need and I'm going to keep them in my hand. And the medical supplies can typically heal somebody if they've been got injured or frostbite or something. And it's just interesting because there's so many different scenarios. You can choose a fast, medium, or long playing game. You can choose your difficulty. You can it's like a 2-player game, just like a cooperative, trying to like, you know, figure out how we can get out of this alive. And you basically just have to survive the rounds. Like, depending if it's a quick game, you might only play 4 or 5. A longer one, I think it goes to 7 or 8 rounds. But you're just going around searching, and when you search, you always make noise, so that attracts more zombies to these locations. And if the locations ever get overwhelmed when you're there, you will die as well. So you kind of have to move around and kill off zombies at these areas. And some of your characters are good at like killing zombies, and some of them are good at like searching. And you have all different physical traits that will help you in different areas. So you kind of try to like round yourself out a bit. But then you have some stupid characters, like you have this like drunken Santa or something.
Oh, jeez.
And he's good. He's good for one little thing, but you usually will like throw him to the zombies first kind of thing. Because some of them,
Sacrifice Santa.
yeah, some of them will have like an ability once they do die, they'll give this back, or I don't know. It's a really neat game. It's a big sprawling table game that is a huge setup, but with the right people that enjoy this type of game, it's fun. And yeah, that's my number 4, Dead of Winter.
Sounds cool. And I looked up that movie that I was the last game I did was
Oh,
about.
yeah.
It's Tremors with Kevin Bacon from the
okay.
1990s.
Yes. Tremors.
Yeah.
Now I remember. Okay.
Okay, so my number 4 is Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu. This one was created in 2016. It's a Matt Leacock and Chuck D. Yeager, and it's a Z-Man Games. And this does play like Pandemic. Like, you have the map. You got to go around because you have these cultists that are spreading across the locations. And then each card that, like, because at first you'll flip a couple cards, and then those get 3 cultists, and then you'll flip more, and then they get 2, and then you flip more, and they get 1. But those cards stay in your discard pile. And then you have like all these different characters, and you'll have these different abilities, and you can go around, and it's a little bit more forgiving than Pandemic in a way, as in like there in this map there's like these different cities, and if you go into like the green city, well, the cards that you have for traveling to green cities or that sort of stuff are to unlock. Well, what you're trying to do is you're trying to close the gates to the underworld or whatever Cthulhu's from, and then so you're trying to get to these locations and close down these gates that's been opened by the cultists. And then so you would need 5 cards of that city color. So it's not specific to the, like it's the church, like it's just green cards that you would need. And then you're trying to get these 5 cards so that you can close down this gate. Now you could also, if you wanted to, travel through the gates to make it across the border to another one. But every time you're going to go in that gate, you would have to take a sanity roll because you're going to see some horrors. And so you would see, but your character can at some point go insane as well. And if they go insane, it changes their abilities a bit. It's like, okay, well, you can still do this, but you can't do that anymore because you've gone insane. And you can go where you become okay again, but and so anyway, so you spreading all these, then at the end of each round you kind of flip over 2 cards that would add more cultists around on this map. If you ever get more than 3 cultists on one location, well, then that gets replaced by this bigger, badder monster. And this one, every time at the end of the game, like at the end of the round, he moves towards the closest gate. And if he reaches the gate and he's able to do his action there, then he reveals one of the big bad monsters that's on the top of the board, and then you'll flip this over. It's like, okay, well, now you can no longer do this ability, or this is happening. So it kind of changes and make the game a little bit more challenging. If you ever flip enough of those that you reveal Cthulhu, you've lost the game. If all of your characters ever go insane at the same time, then you lose the game. So there's like, it's one of those, like, there's so many ways you can lose the game, and there's only one way you can win. You got to seal all of the gateways, right? And then you'll kind of go through, collect cards each time too, and then some of these cards will do good things, or it'll have like the colors, so you can get the colors that you need for unlocking the gate or for locking up the gates. But then you'll get like I'm not sure what it's called, like the bad cards. So then what happens is you take all of those locations that you have in the discard pile, and these have cultists because you've been putting them up there. Well, now you take all of these and you shuffle them all into the deck, and you shuffle them all together, but then you put them on top of the deck. So now all the cards coming up are cards that already have cultists. So the chances of things flaring up and bringing in one of those bigger, better monsters is more likely, and then you'd have more of them going around the board trying to go to the gates to open up these bad guys, or kind of let these bad guys into our world. But then if you ever go and battle one of them, if you're ever on the same location as them, then you got to take a sanity roll. But then you got to stop them before they get, so you got to reach out to them. Then you'd have to take a sanity roll as well and take like potential sanity damage as well, right? It is neat. We played this, and then the kids were like, wow, this was a real short game. just because we lost that quickly. So, but it's neat. Number 4, Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu.
Awesome. My number 3 is a game that you lent us. Well, not really lent us. I went and bought it for you, and then you graciously said, "Open it up and play it before you
nice,
give it
yeah.
back." And I'm like, "Oh my god, awesome!" And I the only reason I didn't buy this is I don't typically have 4 people to play with. But you said you can play it with 3. Just do this. So this is Phantom Inc. and it's made in 2022, so it's a brand new game by Mary Flanagan and Max Seidman. This is a party game, and it's really neat. You each have a handful of cards, and one player will be the ghost, I think it is, or a medium they play. And so what they're trying to do is get to the other players, depending on the cards that they give them. So like if we were playing with, well, let's just talk about it in teams because that's typically how it's played. So I would have people on my team and say I was the ghost. I would try to relay the
because you pick a word.
Yeah, I pick a word. I pick the word, right?
The ghost picks the word.
Ghost picks the word, and they have a handful of questions. So they're going to hand me a question, or a couple, and I decide what.
Yeah.
And I choose one out of the 2, and then I'm going to choose one, and so they'll know which one I chose because I think you put it face up or you give them back their other one, and then I am going to slowly. You start is there a timer? No, I forget.
There isn't a timer. No.
There's no timer. Yeah, so I will start to write the answer to their question. Now, I don't want it to be too obvious because the other team is also like trying to figure out what the word is as well. Because they are in a 4-player, are they guessing the same word that I'm choosing?
It's always the same word.
So in the 3-player, it's a little bit different. But so I don't want them to know obviously what it is, but because does the other team know their question?
So what will happen is one team will submit the questions. You're trying to guess the same word, and then you'll be giving the answer, and then you'll give the answer one letter at a time. And when
but the other team
they don't see the questions,
okay,
but they can see the beginning of the word.
Right.
They don't know how it relates to the word you're trying to guess.
Yeah.
Right?
But they might kind of figure out the word just from.
Yeah.
So I'll start with one letter, and then they might be like, well, yeah, I need another letter. Unless they're like, oh, I know what it is. Or you'll write 2 or 3 letters, and then like, stop, because any more would totally give it away. Yeah. And then the other team will go, right?
Yeah.
And then you kind of go back and forth. And depending what round you get to, there's one thing where you have to reveal, like there's a little eye. And you
it has a little eye. Mm-hmm. So allows that team to pick an extra letter in any of the previous answers.
So they can add one, and then they're like, oh, okay, I know what that word is. So they might write it down, and it helps them figure out theirs. And it's basically the first team that can guess the word. Yeah. And it's such a simple concept, which, I mean, a lot of these really good games are. It's like just one, and like it's like, what? How did nobody else think of this? Like, it's just so simple, but so neat. Yeah. And we even at 3 players, it was neat because in 3 players, they each have their own word, but the other player is still possibly trying to guess it, and they can very well do it, but it's really cool. And yeah, that's my number 3, Phantom Inc.
Yeah, that one was cool. We played it. We were 4. So me and Michael were the ghost. And like we got right into it. So we're giving the clues. Like the word was zombie. And they're like, what is it? It was like, the question is like, how can you use it? Or what's its opposite? Like, well, I don't know how you use a zombie. So we threw out that question out. And we put like, okay, so the opposite, and then we decide the opposite would be human, and we're giving the clues, but we're like H. The letters that we're talking like we're ghosts. It was hilarious. It was a lot of fun. Good pick. So that was your number 3. My number 3 is Alien: Fate of the Nostromo. It's published in 2021. It's a Scott Rogers game, and it's created by Ravenberger. And this one plays like Alien, the movie. But you're on this ship, and there's an alien on the ship, and you can see the alien's like this big icon, and he's moving around, and you're trying to get all these things done so you can get the ship going, and your time pods kind of like re-energize or whatever. And then depending on the game, you can draw different things, so it would change different round, and you're going around, and sometimes you don't know where the alien is. So like, okay, in the room, and then you got to flip something over, and okay, it's nothing, it's all clear, you're good, and you can kind of go further down because you got to make it to the medical bay because you got to go and grab this. That's part of the missions that needs to be done. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to go this way. And then you flip over, and you flip a tile over, and it's the cat. And doesn't necessarily attack you, but it made you jump. So you take some kind of still like your morale goes down because you're getting freaked out. And then like you have like this morale meter that you have as well. And then be like, okay, it's like, okay, I got the medical stuff I need. Now I got to come back into this room. So you come back, and then you flip a tile. It's like, oh, it's an alien. And then because it's an alien, like you take damage, like you take some hits or whatever damage, and then you run away a couple of spaces away. Then you're like, okay, I'm in this room over here now. It's like, but now like your psyche has gone down even further. Like it's such an interesting game. Me and Nick played it, and we lost. But it was kind of like just because of like the flipping, and there's an alien on the ship. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna try to go there, and then now all of a sudden, okay, well, we know the alien's there, and he's gonna travel this way, and it's like creates that anxiety almost, right? It was neat. So that's my number 3, Alien: Fate of the Nostromo.
Nostromo? I was
Yeah.
trying to look it up. Oh, okay, interesting. All right, my number 2 is Mysterium Park. So this is kind of a crossover with you, but this is just a more streamlined version of Mysterium. It just takes away the screen and I think a whole round because you're just looking for a person and location. And so you can even play this at 2-player. And so what you're trying to do is you place out on this board, and it's a 3x3 board. You'll place all these different people out. And then you're trying to, it's like a cooperative game, but you're also trying to figure out your own not witness, but your own innocent person on there, because you'll have this little card, kind of like in Codenames, that'll show different colors on there. And so if you're the blue player, it'll have like a blue dot, and that's the one I'm wanting you to guess, that innocent person. And then the yellow, I'll try to get that yellow person to guess that one. And so you just have these like Dixit-like cards, and you will hand them to the people that like you want to guess, and hopefully they will match kind of what you're trying to get them to guess. And then you will, once they do get it, you get to move on to the next round, but you have to make sure everybody has guessed their innocent people, because then they will go off the board, and then there's only 3 actual suspects left on the board. And so you'll put them aside, and then you're going to put out locations, and then again you'll have this little card, a different one, and it'll show the colors on there that you want blue to guess this one, yellow to guess this one, and so on. And so if you get to the point where they have all guessed their locations and their innocent locations and innocent people, then you go on to the final round. And so you'll pull back the 3 suspects and the 3 locations that could possibly have been, and you'll line them up. So you'll have a suspect, location, suspect, location, suspect, location. And then you'll pull a new card, and at the top it'll have a Roman numeral, either a 1 or 2 or 3. So if it's a 1, it's going to be that person and location that is in the number 1 spot. And so you're trying to get them all to guess that one person and location. And you will hand out cards. You're supposed to hand out 1 card for the person and 1 for the location. But I typically will hand out whatever makes more sense to that combination. And I just love this game, and I haven't found anyone who really loves it. I played Mysterium, the big game, with my family, and they kind of liked it, but they weren't like blown away by it. I think it's absolutely unique and so fun. And like you said, you will like have these cards, you're like, oh yeah, they'll get this, and then they look and they're like, what the heck were you thinking? And you're like, well, this guy has a hat and that guy has a hat, and there's checkered floor here, and here's some checkers. And they're like, what? Like in your mind, it's all so crystal clear, but to them, it's like I don't know what the heck you were thinking. But it's just I find it so fun, and it's so different from what I usually play. I don't play these kind of like artsy abstract games, so it's just kind of refreshing and unique. And that's my number 2, Mysterium Park.
Nice. My number 2 is Mansions of Madness Second Edition. I forgot to write what year it was published, but it's like last few years. Created
Yeah.
by Nikki Valens, and it's a fantasy flight game. And this is an app-driven game, and it is so cool. So you can play different scenarios, and there's lots of expansion that kind of adds a bunch of new stories as well. And with it being app driven, kind of like you kind of get the introduction story and you have that background music. So it really creates that atmosphere. And then he's like, okay, and you put this tile down and this is where you're starting. And you put your little kind of minis to show that, okay, that we're here. And then like you can see doors and it's like, okay, so what do you want to do? It's like, okay, well, I'm going to go this way. Now, the one time we played this scenario, it was like, and it makes, you can make noise, and then you go in this room and you could make noise. It's like, okay, we're not making noise, but turns out we're trying to make noise so that it brings that monster away from the family. We weren't doing noise, so we lost almost every family member because we didn't really understand what the goal was. And not everything is kind of obvious because you got to figure out the game as you play as well, right? But it's like, okay, I'm in this big room now. There's a couple of doorways. I'm going to go this way. So you open and it's like, you show on the app, I'm going this way. And says, okay, well, now go get tile E7. So you kind of flip through, okay, tile E7, and you put it. And then these tiles are so detailed. Like you can see the pattern in the carpet and all the furniture, and like it looks amazing. Okay, you put this tile down, so now you have like this much of the mansion that's revealed, and you go there and it says, and be like, okay, you put this token here because there's paper on the floor, and there might be something of interest in this paper. And then you see a cabinet and there's a weapon on the cabinet, so you could go and pick up this weapon and be like, oh, okay. It's like, oh, and then there's this person over there that's cowering in the corner. Maybe we should talk to him. And so I was like, okay, so I'm going in here, and then all of a sudden, like, you'll have these monsters come up too, and it's like, okay, and then he's like, oh no, it is so, but it's so neat because it's creating this map, and it's not random, like it's specific, and you have this thing kind of talking to you, and it's like, okay, well, this happened, and it's like, roll for sanity, and then you kind of roll, and then it's like, oh great, Ginny's gone insane. But when you go insane, you get a card, and then the card tells you how this is affecting you, and then you set it down. You don't tell anybody. And one time we played with my sister, and and her boyfriend, her boyfriend had gone insane, and basically he doesn't trust anybody anymore. So it's a cooperative game, but he's not really playing cooperative anymore. He's just trying to do his own thing. We're like, okay, great. And then Jeanette gone insane as well, and she got the card, but the card said, "You're a strong mind, nothing happens." But now we're like, don't give it to Jeanette. She's insane. And then she's like, but she can't say what's on their card, so she's actually still fine too. And it was like, oh my God. It was like freaking out trying to get this game. And then I think we ended up saving just a maid. Like, all the other family members died. But that was like that particular scenario. And we played a different scenario where there was like these monsters in the garden trying to create this ritual, and we're trying to stop the ritual. It was, but like, yeah, you don't know what's going to happen until you kind of develop into the story and kind of explore this mansion enough to find out, like, oh my God, kid, this is what we got to do. But it is cool. It is so neat. That's my number 2, Mansions of Madness.
Awesome. I haven't tried this one. I've tried Mountains of Madness, but I didn't like that one. But everyone says this one is way better. So I'll have to try this one. All right. Well, my number 1 will be no surprise because I've talked about this in all kinds of lists. And that is The Bloody Inn, made in 2015 by Nicholas Robert. And this one has such a goofy theme. You are running an inn, and you all have certain rooms in the inn, and you are basically trying to either keep a guest in your spot in the inn or kill guests and take their money. So how you do that is you start with a hand of cards, which is 2 peasants. And what you need to do first is bribe a guest. So you probably don't want to bribe a guest that is on your door, because you have one door of your color on the board, and the one player gets to decide where each card goes. So they will welcome guests. So in a 2-player game, there's, I think, 6 guests. We each have one color, and then there's some neutral colors. So if I'm the first player, the other player, or like if there's a multiplayer game, the one player will get to choose where all the guests go. And they do differ because some are like a 0 value, some are 1, 2, or 3. And if it's a 0 value, you can take that card without having to use anyone to help you bribe them. But if it's a value 1 card, you have to use a guest to bribe. So you'll have to give up a peasant, or you are going to have a guest already in your hand that has a bribe action, because then you just have to show that card and then you can take that one for free. Now, there's also cops that are in there, and if they are ever still in the inn at the end of the round and you have killed someone and not buried them, then you will need to pay some money back, like some big money back. So you don't want to do that. But you may just want to bribe that cop, because the cops will help you kill people because they have a little gun at the top. So
Nice.
it's so silly, but it's such a brain burner too, because you have cops that will help you kill people. You have these bribe people that will help you bribe people. You have guys that will help you bury. And then you also have guys that will help you build annexes, because you need to have annexes in order to bury people under them. You do start with 1, but you need to have more. The other thing you could do is you could kill someone, and if somebody has room in one of their annexes, you could bury him under somebody else's, but then you have to split the money with them. Now, the board only goes up to 40. So once you've gotten to 40 points, dollars, or francs, they call them, then you need to deposit it. So you have to take a whole action to deposit that 40, which you take these little square money chips, and then you kind of go back to 0, or if you only want to deposit 30, then you go back to 10. And it's just so neat, because you only get 2 actions each turn. So you either, bribe a guest, or you kill someone, or you bury someone, or you build an annex, and you get to do 2 of those things each round. And then at the end of the round, if your guest is still at your colored door, you get a franc for it. And you have to pay all the workers in your hand. So if you gathered a whole bunch and you have 6 workers, you have to pay 6 francs. So it's trying to balance, your staff, and so that you don't want too many in your hand at the end of the round, but you also don't want to have somebody killed and have cops out there, because then you're going to have to basically pay them the money, most of the money that you collected from the dead body. And it's just such a goofy theme, but the mechanic is so neat and so thinky, and that's my number 1, the Body Inn.
Nice. Yeah, I have to try that one. That just sounds so wrong.
Yeah.
My
The art in
number
it is
1.
so funny too.
Yeah, it just seems silly, funny, but well, it's like Gloom, right? Where you gotta depress your family to kill them off.
Yeah.
Okay. My number 1 is Betrayal at House on the Hill. It was published in 2004, but they just re-released the third edition of it. And it's created by Bruce Glasgow, Rob sorry, I wrote this at the very bottom of my sheet, and I have trouble reading my own handwriting here. So Rob Davio, Bill
Davio.
McQuillian, Mike Selenber, Trewin Woodruff, and it's an Avalon Hill Games. This one was gifted to me at some point, and then after I had played my first hobby game with my brother for my birthday in 2017, I went home and I'm like, okay, I want to play board games now. And I went and kind of dug out these games, and then this was one of them. So we set it up, and I played it with the boys. And this is also when I realized, oh my God, my kids can play cool games now. It doesn't have to be Candyland anymore. And I was so blown away by this game. Then I called my brother. I was like, oh my God, thank you so much for getting me this game. And he's like, I didn't get you that game. And I'm like, who got me this game? And I'm like, and it was my sister-in-law at the time, and I was like, you don't understand how amazing this game was. I had no idea these existed, right? And it plays a bit like Mansion of Madness, where you're exploring a mansion, and you start and you have the tile that has the lobby and a staircase, and that's where you start. And then you can go in any room that you want. So if you go up the stairs, then you have to Be like, okay, I'm in this room now. So you flip a card from the top of the pile to put and add it to the mansion. But if you're in up the stairs, then you have to add an upper level tile. And the tiles all have like upper, ground, or basement indicated on it. Could be that the tiles could go in all three, or some is on the upper level or basement, or some are just ground floor and basement, or so on. So you would be like, okay, well, I'm in the upper level, so you would add the next upper level tile and you add this. Oh, okay, so I found a bedroom. And you go in and there's symbols on it. So it'd be like, okay, well, oh, there's an item in here. So you get to draw an item card. Okay, I've got that. And then something else happens. And then each round, at the end of the round, you have to roll for the haunt. And when you'll get omen cards, that comes up. And then be like, so at the beginning, there's none. And then be like, oh, okay, there's an omen card. So you have one omen card on the table and you would roll. And these dice is like 0, 1, 2, or 3. And then you roll a bunch of the dice and then be like, oh, okay, I've got 5. There's only one omen card. We're good. So you keep going until you have to roll for the haunt. And you don't roll as much as there's omen cards on the board. And then if that happens, you've triggered the haunt. And then you pull out the scenario book and be like, okay, well, we're in this room. And it was created with this item. So this is scenario number 38. And this is what happens. So and so, depending on who's playing, it is like has the lowest sanity is now gone insane, and they turn into Dracula, or they're actually a werewolf, or it all has, there's 50 different scenarios that can happen. So something happens, one of us has now betrayed the others or gone insane, or we turned into a monster, or something's happened. So then you separate for a moment. That person's like, okay, go read scenario number 38. And they go is like, okay, well, I'm Dracula now. So I can control bats and send bats across the house. And my goal is to try and kill all the different members. And then for the other team's like, okay, well, he's Dracula now. So we need to find the pistol, which we haven't come across yet. So we need to continue exploring the house, find the pistol. We have silver bullets. And then once we found the pistol, we need to shoot him with these silver bullets to win. But we don't know yet that there's going to be bats. Some of the information aren't revealed to us, or some of the, like, and then the person that's the betrayer doesn't necessarily know what we need to do to kill them. So there's some hidden elements in there. And then I was like, okay, we all come back. So I was okay. And now it's like you keep going around taking your turn, and like, so there's this element of suspense. You don't know what's happening, and you never know when you start this game which scenario is going to come up. And now I've heard like the 3rd edition that came out, some people are complaining about the component not being as good. I have, yeah, apparently the mind you, and that was a concern with me because like the first one you had these cards for each character. Each character kind of, you have the old man, his sanity is really good, but his stamina is not good, and he doesn't walk very far, so he can only move by 2 spaces at a time. While you have the jock, and he can go 3 spaces. He's like lots of speed, and he's really strong. But his sanity, like his mind, like is not very strong. So, and you have all these different characters like that. But, and then you have this board, and you keep track of it on this little kind of hexagon shaped board, and you have these sliders on it that falls off. Super easy. So you'd have to tuck a little piece of paper to kind of make it thicker so that it would stay. It was really annoying. But so I bought the updated components that has like the spinning wheel thing. So now it's just like you can spin up and down, and it's much better. And it came with like upgraded dice and all that stuff. So it's like with this one, it was really worth doing that component upgrade. But apparently the new game that came out, and I'm not sure what the concerns are, if it's something like that where those things fall off as well, or what's happening, but it's so cool. It's so neat. Like I've played this a few times. I haven't done every scenario yet because you just don't know. I think the original one, they kind of complained that some of the scenario didn't work as well as others. And I think a lot of that's been kind of tweaked and corrected. There's also Betrayals at Baldur's Gate, which is more of like a D&D version of it. And there's a Scooby-Doo one.
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh, cool. But yeah, I just absolutely love this one. Probably just because of like the feeling that this caused when I discovered it so early in the hobby, right? So that's my number 1, Betrayal at House on the Hill.
Awesome.
So now, next week, we're hoping to do an interview episode because we're going to KefCon, which is a board game convention that they have in November in Edmonton. Now, if you want to know more about it, go to the website kefcon.ca, and that's KEFCON. And it's an amazing event. This is my first time going. I was going last time before COVID came and kind of put an end to this. Now, the last time you went, Rodney Smith was there as well, wasn't he?
Yes, I'm 99% sure it was KefCon, but
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure that was the one. That's what I'm going to ask Arson.
Yeah.
Is he coming again? Which I really
Yeah.
doubt he's coming. But.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Now, and because this is a fairly small, and I think it's the sixth one coming up, which is Cthulhu themed, so I'm super excited for that. But it's be interesting to see how this all started and how it kind of built up to what it is now. So super excited for this one.
Me too.
And then our next one after that would be race game. So we're hoping to do the interview first, but if not, it'd be the race game one.
Yes.
Now, before we call it quits here, Carla, if we want to find you, how can we find you?
I'm on Instagram at Boardgame Specialist, all one word, and I have a Facebook page called Red Deer Board Game Fanatics. What about you?
On Instagram, I'm Mel's_boardgame_room. On Facebook, it's Mel and Friends Board Game Room, and my YouTube channel is Mel's Board Game Room. So thank you so much for tuning in for this one. Be sure to check in at the next episode and find out all about KefCon, which I'm so excited for. Oh, it's going to be great. But that's great. So bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening.